the player that I look at that's a non-quarterback is Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb has gone from 20-1 to 15-1 in today alone. Just today. That's massive line movement. And if you look at the Cleveland Browns and what they're going to do and what we kind of imagine is going to be their offensive flow, they live and die by their offensive line. And let's be real, I don't have any faith in Deshaun Watson to do a damn thing. I don't have any faith that he's going to come back and be any version of himself that he was in Houston. So they're going to run this thing through Nick Chubb by hell or high water. So if the offensive line is still good, which it's been for many years now, and if Nick Chubb gets 300 carries like he did before his injury the year before and has, 35 to 40 catches in that season, I think the award is his, even though it normally goes to a quarterback.
It's funny because this market feels a lot different than last year, doesn't it?
It does.
Like you could make a case for other, obviously it turned out not to be DeMar Hamlin last year, but it's because he really didn't play. But you can make a case for so many different players, but yet poke holes in every single one of their campaigns or their resumes for this. I think the Kyler Murray thing's interesting too because it's like you have to kind of get into the head of a voter, and we'd have to talk to somebody individually. We've had certain people on before that do have votes in various awards for various sports, and everybody has a different process. So like the question becomes, how much do you consider the comeback of Kyler Murray last year versus a full season now? How many games does somebody have to miss the year before for you to consider them a comeback player of the year? Like Kirk Cousins played a bunch of games still last year. So it's like, where does that go? I think in the end it probably comes down to just who really has the best or one of the best seasons, who stands out the most. But there's a lot of different voters that are going to feel very differently about this, and I think that's what just kind of makes it, it's like Justin Fields is on here at 35-1. Justin Fields is not even going to start, but it'd be interesting to see like what his season looks like. Where he's not going to be looked at like what are we really talking about Justin Fields and what he's coming back from? Like we have these. Sometimes it's just based on a story. I think more than it's even based on an injury. So there's a lot that really goes into this, but I think this is a market that has a lot of meat on the bone just because of all of the different potential possibilities that are there for these seasons.
Is there anyone on this list that you would absolutely scratch off?
Yeah, Deshaun Watson right off the bat. Yep. I'm with you there. You and I both feel the same way about Deshaun Watson. We have seen the best of Deshaun Watson. We've watched him now multiple seasons in Cleveland look like a shell of himself. And if you want to talk about Aaron Rodgers not getting votes, well, Deshaun Watson's definitely not going to get votes from people because of what's happened off the field with him. So immediately, I'm scratching Deshaun Watson off of there. If you're going to look at just in terms of, what they're coming back from, I guess would be the best way to put it. Again, Justin Fields would really be off it. It's funny to see him on there, but he's off. Bryce Young, half the time I'm just thinking he's, coming back from a bad offensive line.
Totally.
It's like, so you kind of look at that and you're like, okay, that's
Justin Herbert's coming back from a bad coach?
Yeah. He got hurt, but we know they kind of sat him down, too. Let's be honest. Everybody just decided their season was over early. They said, we're done with you, Brandon Staley. Nobody's playing anymore. This season's over. We've got a coach in Edmonton that hasn't even coached the full season yet, which is just remarkable given, where they are right now. Obviously there is experience on one side versus the other when we talk about coaching, but would you give that a major coaching advantage, or is it maybe closer than we might think?
It's closer than you might think. Paul Maurice of the Florida Panthers is to put it in perspective on how long this guy's been coaching, he was the head coach of the Hartford Whalers in the 1990s.
Wow.
Like, that's how long this guy's been around. He is a quote machine. Everybody loves him because of that. He took a run at me during the Boston series. I wear it as a badge of honor. But Chris Knobloch, the head coach of the Oilers, is a really interesting coach. He coached Connor McDavid in junior hockey. He came in around 12 or 13 games into the season, turned the Oilers season around. And the thing about him that's interesting, though, is that every decision he's made during these playoffs has worked out. He benched their starting goalie, Stuart Skinner, for a couple games. They end up playing better defense, and he gets his game back in order. He's 6-2 with a goals against average of under 2 since that benching. Lineup changes, when to call timeouts. Like, you would not think that this guy is on his first run behind an NHL bench because he's been bold and he's been accurate and good in the coaching decisions that he's made.
It's been 31 years since a Canadian team has won a Stanley Cup. There's been 6 Canadian teams who have advanced to the Stanley Cup Finals during that time and obviously lost. What's the reason that the juju breaks this year?
I mean, that's such a beautiful stat as an American hockey fan. I wish it could be a century without them winning another cup. But the juju is going to break because I think, and I said this at the beginning of the season when I predicted the Oilers would win the cup, when you get two generational talents on the same team, they eventually figure it out. Whether it's Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, whether it's Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr, whether it's Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier, at some point when you get two of those guys on the same team, they figure it out. And McDavid and Draisaitl, I talked to them before the season. They were sick and tired of falling short. You could see both of them just dragging this team by the scruff of their neck to the Stanley Cup final. But the thing is they can't do it alone. And I thought this was the deepest team that they've had together. And I also think that they've, like I said earlier, figured out how you have to play in order to win in the playoffs. It's one of the toughest lessons for a team to learn. I think they've learned it. And it just feels like it's their time. And again, I don't want a Canadian team to ever win the cup, but I will take the acceptable sacrifice of Connor McDavid getting a ring if it does mean a Canadian team has to win.
Paul Skeens, I know obviously he's the second coming of Strasburg, but we only have a sample size right now of 4 starts. But what a 4 starts that he's had. I would like him a lot better if there wasn't the other stud pitcher in Shota who has more starts and has a big head start on him, but I think he's a solid second bet. I think he's plus 350 right now.
Yeah, Skeens is plus 350, Shota's plus 120, and then when you're talking like ERA, Shota's sitting there at plus 186, or plus 1.86. I'm sitting here like I'm talking about lines. He's 1.86, and Skeens sits at 2.45 in terms of ERA. So it's like they're both having incredible rookie seasons. But we're looking at Skeens, who's been incredible. A lot more hype, obviously. We're talking fastball. We're talking, it's also who he's dating matters. Like, it's social media just ramps all of that stuff up. But Shota's had an incredible, incredible season.
Yeah, and Yamamoto has been really, 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 really good. He had an awesome April, 2.45 ERA. My goodness. Came back down to earth in May. But his last start, Yamamoto went 7 innings with 1 earned run, 7 strikeout start. I think if he can keep that up, and if Shota was to come back down to earth, he's plus 750 if you can find it. I mean, just shop around. That's where you can get him right now. That's an interesting bet. We'll talk to Jake Hassan next segment. I'd love to get his thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, the one thing that'll help Paul Skeens, though, I think, is the fact that he's got there's a celebrity around him already.
Yeah, I think people want him to win it. That's for sure.
He's got a mustache,
well,
too.
Libby Dunn helps a lot with that.
That's what I mean. Like that, the overall celebrity around him, it's a celebrity couple. It's the mustache. It's the fastball. It's like he's the biggest star there right now, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he's having the best season out of all of those names.